I'm the president of Canada Hong Kong Link. I'm also the moderator of today's press conference. We are also conducting a live stream of our press conference so that people concerned about critical development in Hong Kong can watch safely from home. Today, on May 28 in Beijing, the National People's Congress of China announced its unilateral imposition of a repressive national security law in Hong Kong. To many Hong Kong lawmakers and community leaders, this is the darkest day Hong Kong has faced since China assumed control in 1997. The law constitutes an imminent danger to the human rights and security of Hong Kongers and expatriates residing in this international city. It will criminalize any act considered by the Chinese Communist Party to be subversion, terrorism, or foreign interference. It will permit Beijing to establish its own security forces in Hong Kong to enforce its crackdown on any expression of dissent. This would particularly endanger the opposition parties, human rights groups, student unions, media organizations, and faith groups under the guise of protecting national security. A massive assault on the civil rights of the people of Hong Kong, as has always happened with the student protesters in China, defenders, lawyers, millions of interned Uyghurs, Tibetans, and faith groups whose rights of free expression and worship have been denied. Hong Kong has always been an open and free society that Canadians cherish dearly. It is not only the place where many of us were born and grew up. It is also the city that holds the largest population of Canadians outside of Canada, numbering over 300,000, or maybe even more. Since Hong Kong's handover to Communist China in 1997, Canadians have been concerned for its future. During the umbrella movement in 2014 and the anti-extradition protests last year, thousands of Canadians took to the streets all over the country to support Hong Kong in a struggle for freedom and autonomy. Today, for the very first time in history, 13 organizations across Canada have joined together to condemn the Chinese Communist Party's unilateral imposition of the repressive national security law on Hong Kong. This is just the beginning of a Canadian-wide united movement supporting Hong Kong. And we have issued a joint statement on this threat to freedom, autonomy, and the rule of law in Hong Kong. In it, we also outline what the Canadian government and also the international community need to do, not just to support Hong Kong, but also to support Canadian interests and values in our global fight against Chinese authoritarianism. Now, today, we are going to hear from representatives of organizations across Canada as well as in Hong Kong about the concerns toward this national security law. Now, first of all, I would like to invite Professor Joe Yao, who is a representative from the Canadian Voice in Hong Kong, which is a newly established group in Hong Kong last year during the anti-extradition bill movement. And it consists of members who are all Canadians working and living in Hong Kong. And Professor Yao is a professor teaching at the Baptist University of Hong Kong. So Professor Yao, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Gloria, for giving me the time to share with you all. Now, just to let you guys know a bit about what is happening now in Hong Kong. Now, perhaps you know that just this afternoon, National People's Congress has just passed the resolution of the national security law for Hong Kong, and Hong Kong people are really facing the frustration as well as the worries. As we all know, like Chinese government doesn't have a good track record of rule of law, and with such a law passed, here in Hong Kong, we the people just face the kind of worries, and we worry that is even more than the extradition law that we were talking about last year, and we worry that we would be Hong Kong people would be losing our jobs, would be losing the kind of business opportunities with the outside world, because say for example the U.S. okay, they are starting to retract from the provision that they have been giving to Hong Kong for such a long time, and the kind of cooperation between Hong Kong and the outside world is weakened. Now, one thing about important about Hong Kong is that okay, Hong Kong is a very good bridging the outside world to mainland China, doing business as well as understanding mainland China. Now, Hong Kong people share the universal value with most Western people, and we have do have that kind of understanding, and it would be best for Hong Kong people to communicate, to share the experience. Here in Hong Kong, we do have a good a good rule of law, and our judicial system is a good one. It's been working for a long time, and people trust Hong Kong all because of the law and order we have here in Hong Kong. But right now, with the introduction of this national security law, we do have our worries, and perhaps I'll just stop here and let the other speakers share a bit as well. Yeah, Gloria.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Yao. And so actually, we have a joint statement that is signed by 13 community organizations in Canada. It actually is from 9 cities and also, a number of different provinces. And so we are going to send that joint statement to all the media after the press conference if you haven't received it. So we will have 3 more speakers to share with us the concerns. So the next one is Joshua Wong from Halifax, Hong Kong Link. Joshua, please.
Hi, I hope you guys can all see me right now. Thank you, Gloria, for the introduction. So on behalf of Halifax, Hong Kong Link, we would like to share a few words regarding to our Canadian concern. So right here, on behalf of Halifax Hong Kong Link, we have Julie here and also me. Would like to leave a few words regarding to the recently passed national security law by the NPC of China. First of all, we are not surprised on China moving on to use the rubber stamp Congress to usurp Hong Kong's economy, and also have been ongoing for a long time with people of Hong Kong who has been fighting against it relentlessly since last summer. However, this preposterous action by NPC is simply dishonest and disrespectful for the promise of one country, two systems, and the Sino-British joint declaration. It's shown the validity and reliability of China being questionable on keeping promises, even with treaties that were bound by the United Nations. In here, we would like to stress that if Canadian government continues to sit idly by with the Liberal Party, NDP, and Green Party working to avoid to talk about this topic and continue to have lukewarm and generic responses, Hong Kong, the last place in China that has some degrees of freedom to speak against a totalitarian regime overtly, will be simply diminished before our eyes. This follows, of course, with 300,000 Canadians and everyone in Hong Kong, including us, can be easily detained by the soon formed secret police and the charges of treason, of subversion against the Communist Party by perhaps attending peaceful assembly or sharing our thoughts on social media anywhere in the world. This also includes us, including Julie and me, to see the chances to see our families in Hong Kong. So we would like to remind the Prime Minister that communication is a two-way street. If China has been willing to communicate with the people of Hong Kong, people would not have been sacrificing the tears, blood, and even lives for almost a year against the simple, basic human rights. It is also to the Canadian government that monitoring and expressing concerns from afar is also not a constructive communication or lack thereof. And should this be the sole method that the Canadian government has been using for almost a year now? For the 300,000 Canadians who believe in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms to become living in the Orwellian world, as described in his novel 1984. This would be the fault of the Canadian government that did not stand with Hong Kong pugnaciously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua. So next we will have Henry Chan from Saskatchewan Stands with Hong Kong, and it represents two cities, Regina and also Saskatoon. Henry, please.
Thank you, Gloria, for your introduction. I would like to remind everyone that we're here not only because we are Hong Kong people, because we care about our home. Also, because we are here because we believe in fundamental human rights and freedoms, and that all fundamental human rights and freedoms, the right to life, the freedom of press, freedom of expression, freedom of worship, are not just freedoms entitled to all men, but are in fact moral qualities given to us by God. In the 20th century, the world fought and dismantled tyrannies and dictators. These suppressed fundamental human rights. The tyrannies of fascism, Nazism, communism divided the world. The free world fought them off in 2 world wars, with significant sacrifices to achieve the freedom we here enjoy in Canada. The world continues to be divided philosophically, not by Hitler's fascism, or Japan's or Mussolini's, nor communist Russia, but by the Chinese communist ideology versus liberty. We in the West believe that the government is there to serve the people. Communists believe that people are there to serve the government. Communists believe that they can hold on to all power. Therefore, if people ask for things like democracy or freedoms, they see it as a plot against the regime. The regime will not feel safe and will try to gain more and more power, which would further suppress its own people. The fact is, government cannot run everything, and it shouldn't try. I shall like to remark some words of the former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher in 1997. She said, "Communism don't change. They have no respect for human life. Communism have no respect for each and every human being. It's a system in which people have to knuckle under to government, and they will not allow any rival party politics." Since the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre, China has shown no constraint in its attack on dissent. In many countries, including China, protecting national security have often been used to justify the most extreme violation of human rights. The concern about this new law is very much relevant, as it gives an extra tool for the Hong Kong government and the Chinese government to suppress Hong Kong people and strip Hong Kong people of their freedoms and rights. In Hong Kong, fundamental rights and freedoms, the rule of law, an independent judiciary, and a high degree of autonomy are protected and guaranteed in the Sino-British Joint Declaration, as well as the Basic Law. All of these core values of Hong Kong are being under attack like never before. Now, may I draw your attention particularly to the judiciary, which is often sought as the last defense against the rule of law. If judges cannot rule without fear or favor and are constrained by political issues, then the rule of law will fail, and freedom will no longer be protected. Without the rule of law, Hong Kong will no longer stand out from the rest of China. My friends, China is the worst totalitarian regime the world have ever seen. Thus, it is our duty as mankind to stand up to this regime, tooth and nail, and resist its inhumane ideology that it tries to spread to the rest of the world, which the people of Hong Kong had done at the forefront for so long, and we must, with all our means, support them and salute them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry. So next, we will have Jonathan Ha from McMaster Stands with Hong Kong in Hamilton to share with us our common demands. Jonathan, please.
Hello?
Hi,
Sorry.
Jonathan, are you there?
Sincere apologies. Sincere apologies. I apologize.
Okay.
My connection is absolutely terrible. In Hong Kong, the protesters follow a very simple philosophy: to be water, and to follow 5 main demands which they request from their government. I don't think we will be covering that today, as they are not the demands that we are shooting for directly.
So William, so Jonathan, you finished, right? So William,
Sorry.
could you read out the 5 points in our joint statement, please?
No worries. Yeah, I can take over from here. So we have compiled a list of 5 demands that we ask of Canadians. So Hong Kong Canadian organizations across the country are uniting now and urging everybody in Canada, especially Canadian civil society organizations and elected representatives of all political parties to join us in our actions to show solidarity with Hong Kongers. And that is because we believe that human rights should not be a partisan issue. We believe that this is something that everybody in Canada should be able to support us in. We also call upon the Canadian government to work closely with our international allies to condemn China's blatant violation of the Sino-British Joint Declaration and the Hong Kong Basic Law. We believe that even though Canada may be a middle power country, we can actually accomplish quite a lot as long as we work with like-minded allies to stand up to the Chinese Communist Party. We also call upon Canada and the international community to revoke the special trade privileges of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region if the autonomy of the Hong Kong SAR under one country, 2 systems is compromised. This is not something that obviously we want to see for Hong Kong, but we believe that this is something that is necessary in order to show the Chinese government that they cannot have it both ways. They cannot, remove Hong Kong's autonomy and yet enjoy all the privileges that it comes with. And so we believe that the Canadian government should take this step in the event that the national security law is passed. We also call upon the Canadian government and the international community to confront China on the world stage by reviewing China's influence in international organizations such as the United Nations Security Council, the World Trade Organization, and especially the World Health Organization, especially as we've seen with the recent COVID-19 pandemic and how the Chinese government's influence over the World Health Organization led to the pandemic becoming a lot worse than it could have been. And finally, we call upon the Canadian government to use the Sergei Magnitsky law to hold accountable Chinese and Hong Kong officials through the use of sanctions. We need to hold them accountable for their human rights violations. And we need to implement sanctions such as banning them from Canada and freezing their Canadian assets. We believe that is one of the key tools that the Canadian government has in order to help protect Hong Kong's autonomy and protect human rights in Hong Kong. And we believe that must be exercised.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan and William from McMaster Stands with Hong Kong. So now we are going to enter into our Q&A section. So if any of the media friend would like to ask question, could you raise your hand so that Eric will know, and Eric will give you the chance to ask the question. And we may have different media here, and preferably if you could ask in English, that would be good so that everybody can understand. If not, if you ask in Cantonese or Mandarin, we'll try our best to answer in your language and then followed by recapturing, the context in English so that everybody would understand what we have addressed to. Okay, so any question from the media friends, please? Eric, can you see who raises the hand and want to ask question? I think you will be the one to give the platform to the media people.
No, actually, most of them are not showing up with video, so I can't see them. So can you ask them to use a chat box?
Okay.
To send in.
Or maybe you can.
Or just voice it out. I think that's fine too.
Unmute them. Unmute them so that they can ask questions.
Yeah, they're not mute.
Okay. So any question? 有冇问题？有没有问题？ Any question from the media people, please? Oh, Anton, if you have question, you are also welcome to ask question.
For some reason, they are all mute.
Oh. Can you unmute them?
No, they can unmute themselves.
Oh, so could you all unmute yourself, please? I'm talking about the media representatives. Otherwise, we won't be able to hear your question. I see Stephanie here. I see Alan and April and Pauline from the various media and more.
Yeah, we have Stephanie from the Canada Press.
Oh, good. Stephanie, welcome. It seems that we cannot hear any of them.
Oh, can they send in the questions through chat?
Okay, could you read it out and maybe some of us can answer the question. So what is the question, please, Eric, if you have access to the chat room?
No, I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay. I wonder if they have not been able to, get access to, Stephanie, a question from Stephanie. So the question is, could you show it again, please? Because we missed it.
Yeah, you can see it. I wonder if you can address the current situation in Hong Kong in the context of yesterday's ruling in the men's, probably Maman Chou's case, and ongoing tension in Canada-China relations.
Maybe I try to answer this question. I think yesterday's ruling on Maman Chou's case was not a surprise to most Canadians who are concerned about the impact of this case on those Canadians being arbitrarily detained in China. I think it's very obvious that it is anticipated that China will continue to, squeeze Canada in the future and blaming Canada for arresting Meng Wanzhou. However, this is something we can't avoid because Canada has to abide by the extradition agreement that we have signed with US. So until we have the final ruling by the court, I don't think any political party, not even a Canadian government, should interfere with the due process of judicial proceeding. And but looking forward, I think it is very important for Canada to realize that we cannot hold on to our silent diplomacy. As you know, that is the kind of strategy we have adopted for the past 2 or 3 decades, because I think exactly because of our silent diplomacy that has been adopted by various governments around the world, that has given the communist authoritarian dictatorship the opportunity to emerge in the world as a significant economic power. And at the same time, we have also witnessed how the Chinese authoritarianism has expanded its influence abroad through soft and sharp power. Actually, in Canada, we have also been experiencing that, and China has been bullying us without any respect to, our values and also our judicial proceeding. And they have also infiltrated and manipulated in different sectors of our society, including our political arena, community, and also media sector. So I think it is of utmost importance for Canada to join, to be united with other like-minded allies in the world, such as the Five Eye Network, to come up with an alliance that dares to say no to China. It is also about time for us to review China's role in the various international institutions, such as WTO, WHO, or even United Nations, APEC, etc. And I think as far as our foreign policy is concerned, I think we need to have a comprehensive review of our foreign policy towards China and Hong Kong. Hopefully, with the hearings being conducted by the Special Committee on Canada-China relations, we'll be able to identify a strong, a much more effective strategy with which we can deal with the relation with China. But definitely, we need a stronger foreign policy towards China. And the silent diplomacy has proven to be a total failure as far as the community organizations that are concerned about China and Hong Kong are concerned.
That's another question from Alan. How are you going to urge Canadian government to take some real actions?
Maybe I also try to answer this question, and then I think if other people have other opinion, you're most welcome to supplement after me. I think as far as the policy change is concerned, I think it is very important for Canadian voters, civil society, to realize, the kind of power we have towards our government. I think so far the Liberal government has been very weak as far as the foreign policy towards China is concerned. Say, for instance, just a few days ago, when the media, when some reporter asked Prime Minister Trudeau, he didn't even dare to use the word condemn in addressing our concern towards the imposition of national security law in Hong Kong. And that is very disappointing. And I think as Canadian organizations, what we plan to do is, number one, we are going to launch a comprehensive lobbying and educational effort to different federal parties, especially those MPs and senators sitting in the strategically important parliamentary committees, such as the Special Committee on Canada-China relations. We will also focus on the Parliamentary Committee on Public Safety and National Security, because there seemed to be a plan for this special committee, parliamentary committee, to conduct a series of hearings soon, particularly after the pandemic has subsided. And they plan to hold China accountable for the mishandling of data and also the disinformation that has caused the coronavirus pandemic around the world. And then apart from that, I think it is also important for us to engage, different civil society organizations as well as our general Canadian, so that they fully understand that what we can do as voters in making positive changes in our foreign policy. And particularly under the minority government, I think all the federal parties will have to work together in order to make anything happen in the parliament. And therefore, we do have a higher level of leverage as far as our lobbying work with the various parties are concerned.
Can I also add in on that?
Sure.
So obviously we must continue to talk to our MPs and tell them that you're as their constituent, you care about Hong Kong, and that you care about whether it is your home or just for the sake of human rights and the core values that the Western community enjoys. And write to them. If they do not reply, write to them again and again until they give you a satisfactory reply, and ask other people to do so with you. And if they do not reply, write to them again. And also, I would like to say that if the Western community cannot stand our principles of human rights, the rule of law, and protecting democracy, then we have failed. They have failed their mission to mankind, and have failed the democratic elected government that they have been chosen to serve the people.
I also have one point to be added to it. I think it is, apart from the Hong Kong Canadian community, we also need to outreach to other ethnic groups, right? Other communities across Canada. Say, for instance, particularly those people who are also under suppression from the Chinese communist regime, such as the Tibetan community, the Uyghur community, human rights groups, and also other Southeast Asian communities that have also experienced oppression from the Chinese communist regime before. I think we find a lot of common grounds, right, in our aspiration, in our concerns towards the major threat from Chinese authoritarian dictatorship, because what they are doing now in Hong Kong, it is the ground zero for the Chinese authoritarianism. And the same strategy will be applied to other parts of the world, including Canada. And therefore, in supporting Hong Kong, we are also supporting ourselves. And because it is one world we are in. And the other thing is, it is also important for us to, for our government to come up with legislation that will address to undue influence from foreign powers on Canadian soil. Because over the past 1 year, we have seen increasing incidents of intimidation and harassment by the United Front organizations and mainland Chinese international students as Canadians try to get our voices heard and also express, exercise our constitutional right of the freedom of expression. I think this is important to us, that we should show zero tolerance to this kind of foreign power influence on Canadian soil.
I apologize for my mic does not work right now, and I've been experiencing some technical difficulties. I just like to chime in for a very short little bit to add on to the end of this. A recent study done by the Angus Reid Institute, which is a Canadian nonprofit foundation, found that 4 in 5 Canadians distrust China, 85% of them.
Yeah.
Ultimately, a public opinion of such is some weight to your MPs. Public, express your discontent. Express in every single way that you know how to anybody who will listen. Your friends, your family, your MP. Ultimately, the more voices that are crying out against the Chinese Communist Party, the more that our MPs and representatives have to listen to us, or they won't be around for very long.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you very much. So any more questions from our media friends?
No, Ray is gone.
Okay. So Ray is still here. Yeah. So if there's no more question, then we are available for one-on-one interview. If you want to conduct an interview with any specific one of us, I just want to let you know that we do have 13 community organizations, and we have 5 speakers here available for interview. If you want to conduct an interview, please contact me, and then I will connect you with the one that you would like to interview with. And we have, again, just to remind you, we have Professor Joe Yao from Hong Kong, representing Canadian Voice in Hong Kong, which is a group representing Canadians working and living in Hong Kong. We also have Henry Chen from the Saskatchewan Stands with Hong Kong, and we have Joshua Wong from Halifax Hong Kong Link, and last but not least, we have Jonathan Hai from McMaster Stands with Hong Kong, and I'm Gloria Feng representing Canada Hong Kong Link, based in Toronto. So if any one of you want to conduct a one-on-one interview, please contact me, and I have my cellular phone number in the joint statement or the media advisory that I've sent you before. So any more questions? Okay, so thank you very much for attending our press conference. So this is not the end of our action. This press conference is just the beginning of a united effort to have our Canadians' concerned voices heard on Canadian soil towards the critical development in Hong Kong. So in the future, we will also keep all the media people and community informed what we plan to do. And one of the options that is approaching very soon is possibly a panel on the anniversary of the anti-extradition bill movement. So we will keep all the community organizations and also media posted. Thank you very much.